Now, instead of describing data with pictures and graphs, we can describe them with number. And this is, of course, only going to be describing quantitative data with numbers. And so we're going to look at different numerical measures of data. The first types of measures that we're going to look at are what are called measures of central tendency. And a measure of central tendency is just a way to describe where the numbers are grouped in some way. And so the first of these is the mean, and this is probably the most commonly known and commonly used measure of central tendency. The mean is just when you get the average. You add all the numbers together and then divide by how many numbers you had, and that's our mean. Let's do a quick example. This should be very, very familiar, so it shouldn't be too tricky. Marcy's exam scores for her last math class were 79, 86, 82, and 94, and we want to find her mean score. And so we're going to take our scores and add them together. 79 plus 86 plus 82 plus 94. And then we divide by how many numbers there were, and there were 4 numbers there. Okay, and we enter, and we would like to get a decimal, so if your calculator gives you a fraction, go ahead and get a decimal out of that. And our mean then is that 85.25. Let's look at another. The number of touchdown passes thrown by 6 of the 31 teams in the National Football League in the 2000 season are shown here below. And we'd like to know the mean number of touchdown passes for these 6 teams. And so again, we're going to take those numbers and we're going to add them and then divide by the number of numbers that we have. So we have 29 plus 22 plus 21 plus 19 plus 19 plus 14. And then we divide by 6 because there are 6 numbers there that we added. And make sure you get a decimal form. And we'll go ahead and round that to the nearest tenth. So that's 20.7. Now, sometimes your data will be presented in a frequency table. And we'd like to be able to calculate the mean from that. So here's an example. We have 100 families in a particular neighborhood that are asked their annual household income to the nearest $5,000. The results are summarized in the frequency table below. We'd like to calculate the mean of this. So what we're going to do is we need to add up all the values. And this number here in the frequency column tells us how many of this number over here we need to add. And so what we're going to do is actually take these 2 numbers and multiply them together. Okay, so we're going to take 6 times 15 and 8 times 20, 11 times 25, and so forth. Okay, now I'm gonna wait to actually calculate these because I'm going to plug them into the calculator later. Now, when I actually multiply these, that's added up the 6 incomes that are the $15,000 and added up the 8 that are the 20,000, etc. So I'm going to add all of these together, and then I need to divide by the total number of observations. And the way I'm going to get that is by adding the frequencies. Okay, so I'm going to write a little formula here that's going to kind of summarize what we're doing here. So we're taking the X data values, so data times frequency, okay, and then we add those up together. Okay, now the notation for adding is that notation right there. So add all the data times frequencies, and then we divide by, and then we add up all the frequencies. So add all the frequencies. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this now in the calculator. So all of those numbers that I wrote there on the side, now we're going to add those in the numerator. So 6 times 15 plus 8 times 20 plus 11 times 25 And then in the denominator, I need the sum of the frequencies. And so I'm going to take just those numbers in the frequency column, the 8, the 6, 8, 11, and so forth, and add those in the denominator. Okay, and that's what I want. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and I get my average, or my mean, which is 33.9. Now, another measure of central tendency, another way to kind of measure how our data is grouped, kind of what its balancing point is this number called the median. And the median is just the number in the middle when your data is put in order. Okay, it's the number that separates the bottom half of the data from the top half. And so what we're going to do to find this is just list your data in order from smallest to largest, and then we find the middle number. Now, if it could be that there's not one number in the middle, but there's two, and in which case you just find the mean of those two, and that will be the median. And there may be just one single number that's there in the middle, and in which case that's the median. So here's an example of finding the median. The number of touchdown passes thrown by each of the 31 teams in the National Football League in the 2000 season are shown here below. We want to find the median number of touchdown passes for the league. Now, this there's a lot of numbers, so it's already ordered for us here from largest to smallest. It doesn't really matter which order it's ordered as long as it is in order. And we want to find the middle number. Okay, now if you've got a lot of teams here, we've got 31 numbers that we're dealing with. We need the middle. So that means that there's going to be 15 to the left and 15 to the right, and there's one in the middle. Okay, and so I could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There's my middle, and then there's 15 on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. And now if you're not sure, how many there's going to be on either side, what you can do is just cross off and say, well, cross off the biggest and the smallest, and then the next biggest and the next smallest, and the next biggest and the next smallest. And you just keep doing this, next biggest, next smallest, next biggest, next smallest. And when you get here towards the end, okay, next biggest, next smallest, don't get lost because you have to do them in pairs. Okay, so I did biggest and smallest, and there's one left. Okay, and that's going to be the median. So with this smaller data set that is not in order, we want the median of the quiz scores. So we're going to start by putting them in order. So I've got 2 is my smallest. Okay, and I usually just cross them off as I go. So I wrote down 2. My next smallest is 4. So 4, cross it off. And I've got 2 5s, 5, 5, cross those off. And then I've got a 6. And then I've got 2 7s, 7, 7. And then I've got 2 8s. And then I've got the 10. Now I need the middle number. Let's do this by the crossing off. So cross off the first and the last. And then the next, first and the last. And the next, first and the last. And then the next, first and the last. Now here, you'll see that there are 2 numbers left. If I cross first and last off, that's crossing both of them off, there's nothing left. So in this case, if you're left with 2 numbers, we're going to find the average of these, the mean, okay, of these 2 numbers. So 6 plus 7 divided by 2, and that's 6.5, and that is the median.